What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Timotheos, and here we have it. We're back again, and this time we're going over 6 tips to become a better mixer. We are not looking at the screen today, so we're going to talk about a little bit of philosophy and some things to think about that actually do in turn make you a better mixer, but isn't really any technique or any crazy idea or anything like that. So, number 1. Getting new tools and learning your current ones. There is so many different plugins out there, and to be frank, I have a lot of them, but that doesn't mean that the ones that come with your DAW are any different or better or worse or any of that. Now, there are some things that you can't do that certain plugins provide, and those things are necessary when you get to that point. But if I was to mix a song and all I had was the stock Ableton plugins, I would do a pretty good job, and there would be some things that are my go-tos that I would miss out on, but ultimately I would find a way. And now, what is this idea of learning your tools? So if you have a DAW, which I would hope you do if you're watching this video, you have stock plugins already. You should have an EQ, a compressor, a reverb, a delay, a limiter, probably a multiband, something or other, and all of those basic tools. Now, how do we start digging in and learning about them? Well, usually your DAW has a manual, and I would recommend that you read at least a little bit about what those processors are, do some research about the intention behind each processor. Another great way to do that is to literally jump right in and start turning knobs. And this is the best way for you to learn what the outcome is, because if you don't, and you don't push things to the extreme, you're just stuck making these subtle little moves, you're not going to advance very far, because ultimately you're going to be losing out on so much potential. YouTube is only going to teach you so much, but you might find something that I would never teach you because you turned something. You might put a delay into a reverb, into a delay, into an EQ, into a compressor, and get this most amazing ambient space. But unfortunately, I'm not going to show you that, and you would have your own sound because of that. Now, you need to get in there. You need to start turning knobs, and ultimately opening an old mix session, just trying something new. Take everything off, try a new approach, try mixing a song using only equalizers, try mixing a song using only a compressor. There's so many different things that you can use creatively, and that's something that you should try, because ultimately you'll get a really, really cool understanding of what's actually possible. Now, there are so many different variety of new plugins coming out every single day, and ultimately looking at maybe where you're deficient in your DAW is a really good place to start. For example, resonance suppression. There's Soothe, there's Speccraft, the Curves Equator from Waves. There's so many different ones, just to name a few, but that's usually not in your DAW, and that might be something you're interested in. And I will tell you, from using it this last year, I definitely was missing out, and it is super helpful. So, not trying to say that you can't do that with some EQing, but it's definitely a little bit easier of an approach, and once you get used to it, it's hard to move out of that. Number 2, practice and consistency. So, practice. This is like a sport. If you are a professional mixer, that means you have spent more time mixing than probably most people spend doing other things. And if you want to be an Olympic swimmer, for example, you're going to be swimming 6 to 8 hours a day, every single day, 5 to 6 days a week with 1 day off. And the recovery process is different when you're talking about something athletic with your body and your mind, but ultimately the time investment and the necessity of having, a superior, like a coach or somebody that's helping you along the way, going on YouTube and watching videos, those kinds of things, and then going into the DAW and practicing and practicing and practicing and opening a mix and not giving up until it sounds absolutely perfect. Ultimately, if you're learning something at the end of it, that's really all that matters. Now, the second part of this is consistency. So consistency, again, looks like having a schedule. 5-6 days a week, going in there, mixing, doing something, having artists come and record and do something fun with a friend, and then mixing that, and, pulling up and downloading stems and files that you can mix of songs that are available out there. Don't underestimate the power of practicing and consistency, because ultimately what I feel like we're doing is we are taking, it's like a big race. You're going to train every single day, all of these little micro training sessions, and then someday you're going to get that big song, and that song is going to be your debut as a mixer, whether you're trying to do this professionally or just in a little more substantial side hustle. This is something that is really important for nailing that opportunity. And there is no such thing as luck. Luck is just opportunity meeting preparation. So if you're prepared for that opportunity, you're going to knock it out of the park, and that's why you need to be consistent. Number 3, study the subject and know the lingo. So, study the subject of mixing. Study compressors. Look up audio companies. Look up mixing engineers, mastering engineers. What gear do they use? What kind of microphones do they use? What techniques are they using to record? What techniques are they using to mix? All of these things are something I've invested a great deal of time in, and suddenly I was good at mixing. It's really crazy. And it's not magic. It's just the more you invest, the more you put into the mindset that you're going after, learning what they did, how they did it, why they did it. You start to think like a mixer. You're not thinking like, okay, I just recorded this vocal, I want it to sound better. You go, okay, what is this vocal telling me? This vocal is a little boomy, so I'm going to reduce that, so then I don't need to boost the high end because I reduced the low end. There's things that you can do that will have an inherent and opposite effect, such as that only studying the subject and having people who've come before you talk to you about and show you. And online, there's really no excuse for you not to be educated. So we're studying the subject, but also knowing the lingo. What is a compressor? What is attack and release, and threshold, and sidechain compression, and equalizers, and resonance, and reverb, and all of these things that ultimately you can't just have a conversation with a stranger about, because they're going to think you're a little crazy. And as much as I would like to, I really don't waste my time on it when I'm talking to people and telling them what I do and what I'm interested in, and even talking about this YouTube channel to people who I know are not mixers. They're not understanding what I'm talking about. There's no reason to bark up that tree. So if you were to watch someone mixing online right now, like Andrew Sheps or Chris Lord-Alge or Jason Joshua or some of the big guys, right? If you were to watch them and they said a term like multiband compression or harmonic enhancement or any of these things that maybe you're like, I don't really know what that means. Google it. Figure it out, study it, dive down that rabbit hole and figure out what that means. What about LUFS, RMS, peak levels, things like that, metering, gain staging, some crazy terms that sound like a bunch of random stuff that are super important for when you're mixing. It's really just about becoming familiar, knowing what to look for, and knowing how to execute. And when you have these fundamental knowledge parts that no one's really giving you unless you're going to a formal education, you need to study the subject. And it's boring. It's very boring. Unless you're excited by it like I am, then it's going to be a little boring. And eventually, some of these loose jargon terms are going to make sense. And when they make sense and everything clicks, you're going to feel really confident with the decisions you're making in the mix. So I would guarantee that learning some of these things is going to do nothing but improve the way that you approach the mix, the way that you make decisions in the mix, and how your mix sounds at the end of the day. So study and learn the lingo. Number 4, reference and match. So reference. This is not specifically having a reference track that you're comparing your song to. We're in practice mode right now. So we're preparing for the big game. We are not going into our song we just recorded and saying, I'm going to mix for an hour and then I'm going to release it. This is, I'm going to mix for a couple of hours and I'm going to try and figure out how they made this sound. I'm going to pull up a Drake record. I'm going to pull up a Tory Lanez song, or somebody who has like a vibe, or your favorite artist, Harry Styles, Bruno Mars just came out with something. So pull that song up, see how his vocals are mixed, see how his beat is banging on your sound system, and when you go to mix your song, mix it like that. If you're in a genre, find the best artist in that genre, pull up their song, listen to a few of their records, and then pull your record up and go, oh snap, I'm not doing as good as I thought, and then go into it. Why not? Where's the kick? Where's the snare? Where is all of these things and the instruments and the melodies and all of that? So, how much reverb is there? How can I match those things? And spend some time, one element at a time, bringing it up and bringing it forward in the mix and putting it back and making all of these decisions to match that record. Eventually you start to realize like, oh wow, I can push things a lot further. You might have a vocal that you think sounds amazing, and then you put it up to, if I was mixing a rap record and then I bring up a J. Cole song or like Kendrick Lamar or somebody, and then their vocal is right here, and then when I play mine, my vocal's all the way back here, and I'm like, oh, I could shove that thing up and make sure that it is at the center stage of the mix. But I wouldn't have made that decision if I didn't have that reference, and I wouldn't know how far to push it if it wasn't for this example. And there's a lot of techniques that people use to do that, but trying to use those tools that we're learning to use and then getting it there and being like, oh, so that's how you do it. This is what you need. It's super bright. How do I make it brighter without making it harsh? How do they do that? Starting to think in those ways, you will, as a creative person, hopefully find a solution to get there. It's not always EQ. Sometimes it's saturation. Sometimes saturation distorts it. Sometimes you can't make it any louder and you have to turn something down and compensate, and you're like, oh wow, I don't think I can ever match this record. And then you get very humbled very quickly. Number 5, knowing when to move on. This is probably one of the most difficult things to accept, because we want to just tinker away at something until it's ultimately ruined. And you might think it sounds better, but if you're listening to something for 2 hours and you're still tweaking, I guarantee you, if you took everything off that you just did, you're going to be mind blown at how far you've ruined whatever it is that you're touching. And so it's really hard to make every move count, and it can be very mind-boggling at first. I've been doing it for 10 years. I still struggle with it. I still feel like now my mixes sound the best that they are, and I'm like, all right, I can't ruin it. I can't ruin it. I have to put, everything needs to be intentional. Every moment needs to be wow, and it's hard to make those moments. So you have to accept that, especially with clients, because you might spin the wheel 100 times and send them number 27, mix number 27, and then they're like, oh, but this and that, and you're like, I don't know, man, this is what I got. You can't polish, you know what? So it's hard. It's a tricky one. And you have to ultimately decide when to say, maybe I'm not the person for this, or this is the best I can do, because you will only go so far on a record, and you might have another record that's waiting to be, pulled up in your DAW that can be a 10. But if the thing you're working on is only capable of becoming a 7, you're going to fight till the end of time to make it a 10, because it will never get there. And if you have something else where the stems are better, the arrangement is better, the song itself is just a better song, then you can get that to that level. But you have to almost complete something and say, this is the best I can do here, to then put all of your energy over to something else. And I really learned that in this last few months as I've been mixing some records for some people and getting through them, and then finally deciding like, this is what it is, and saying this is the best I can do. And that might just be what the song is, and somebody else might be able to do something different, but you were chosen to work on that song, so you're going to give it everything you have. And ultimately, if that still turns up a little short, then you move on to the next one. And when you start that mix, you will have everything that you learned from that previous song, and you will put it right into that. You'll get to a super solid point, and eventually you'll be mixing for 2 hours. The song will feel done when you bounce it and play it back in the car or on the speaker somewhere, and you're going to be like, man, I did that in 2 hours, and it's going to be a good feeling, and I know you can do it. Number 6, asking for help and feedback. Knowing when to ask for help in life, not just mixing, is essential, because we can't do it alone. You can't. There might be very odd outliers that do, and congratulations to you for working your ass off. But ultimately, we are built as a creature to be not independent, to be together with other people. And other people are essential to the process, whether it's saying this is good, this is bad, I don't like this, I don't like that, I think you can do better, motivating, pushing, comparing. Some of these things in other faculties of life are not positive things, but specifically in mixing, getting other people's feedback is very important. And if you think that you're ready to be humbled, and you think that you're ready for a trusted friend, hopefully, to tell you that there are some improvements that you can make, I would definitely go and get that. And it can be really hard, especially with art, because art is something that's very sensitive. It's something that we as creative people put a lot of ourselves into, and we might feel that we're being judged as a person, and we can take it very personally very quickly. And we can also surround ourselves with yes men and women and people who say, oh my God, everything you do is so great, I love it, I love it, I love it. And they're not being genuine, or they're just going to love everything you do. And those people are really important to have. But equally, the people who can be honest with you, even when you are proud of something and they're like, no, I don't know, man, I think you can do better, or I don't know about this one, is really important. And you have to decide when to listen to those people as well, because you can't just live your life based on everybody else. But also asking for help as, going on YouTube, knowing when it's the right time to maybe go to a studio, book an hour or two at a studio and just have somebody else mix your song, and then talk to them about it and see if they're okay with sharing some of the reasons that they made those decisions. I think that's invaluable, especially somebody who's in a position that you want to be. Those are the most important people that you should listen to, is somebody who has what you want, and then you have to ask them how to get there, why they're there, what choices got them there. And those are the people whose opinion you trust. Now, that's pretty much it. And I know that's a little cerebral as far as the process goes, but it's not turning a compressor, it's not any of those things. It's getting your mind right. Your mind needs to be right. And ultimately, I hope that you have the best, most prosperous mixing career, and that your sound develops and enhances and becomes the best it's ever been. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. It would mean a lot to me. And subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this content. There's going to be a lot more coming. I know we got some kind of interesting stuff going on here, but every day we're getting better. And I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And leave me a comment. Go ahead and let us know what video you would like to see next, what concept you want us to talk about. And I appreciate you very much. Y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.